The weird thing about planning your week with AI is that it stops feeling like planning and starts feeling like triage. That is a good thing. Most weekly plans fail because they are fantasy documents. They assume you will wake up on Monday with unlimited focus, zero interruptions, and a perfect memory of everything you meant to do. Then the week hits, the plan collapses, and you tell yourself you need more discipline. Usually, you do not. Usually, you need a system that plans around reality instead of pretending reality will behave. A lot of people use AI to generate beautiful weekly schedules that are dead on arrival. They ask for the ideal week, not the real week. So the tool hands them a clean grid full of optimism, and by Tuesday, they are already behind. That is not because AI is bad at planning, it is because the input ignored energy, fixed appointments, travel time, recovery time, and the fact that some tasks take twice as long when your brain is fried. The better move is to let AI help you sequence the week, not decorate it. I want it to sort priorities, spot overload, create buffers, and force trade offs. I do not want it to hand me a fake life where every hour is equally productive. Good planning is not squeezing everything in. Good planning is deciding what gets protected, what gets batched, what gets shortened, and what gets cut before the week turns messy. The reason this matters so much is that weekly planning repeats. That means the cost of a week workflow keeps showing up again and again, usually in small, invisible ways. You lose 10 minutes here, 15 there, and another 20 because the first output came back in the wrong shape. That's exactly where AI should earn its keep, not as a novelty machine, as a friction reducer. If a system can repeatedly take a calendar full of meetings, errands, deadlines, and loose tasks, competing for the same space and turn it into a realistic week map with protected blocks, admin zones, and honest buffers, then it is worth keeping. If it cannot do that on a normal Tuesday, then it is probably just a demo-friendly trick. One thing that helps immediately is collecting better raw material before you prompt. People often ask AI to rescue work that was never defined clearly in the first place. Better inputs do not need to be elegant. They just need to be real. Use your rough notes, actual constraints, unfinished thoughts, ugly examples, deadlines, names, goals, and the pieces you are normally tempted to leave out. Real context gives the model something to grip. Vague requests force it to guess. And when the setup is based on guessing, the output usually needs too much cleanup to feel like a real-time saver. I also think the order of operations matters more than the exact wording. For weekly planning, the best sequence is usually to get the mess visible, compress it into structure, turn that structure into one usable output, and only then polish. People often reverse that. They chase the polished version before they have a useful version. That slows everything down. A rough draft, rough plan, rough schedule, rough recap, or rough decision frame is not a failure. It is the bridge between confusion and refinement. AI is strongest when it helps you cross that bridge fast. Here's a simple practical test. Imagine you're in the middle of a busy week and your calendar's full of meetings, errands, deadlines, and loose tasks competing for the same space. You're not calm, not fully prepared, and definitely not in the mood to build a masterpiece workflow from scratch. Could this system still help you produce a realistic week map with protected blocks, admin zones, and honest buffers in a way that feels lighter than doing it alone? That is the real benchmark. Systems should be judged under pressure, not only when you have free time and perfect energy. Anything that collapses the moment life gets noisy, it was never a strong system. It was just neat formatting. Another big upgrade is separating creation from evaluation. When people use AI badly, they often try to generate and judge at the same time, which creates hesitation. It is better to ask for one solid pass, then evaluate that pass with a clear lens. For weekly planning, the lens might be clarity, speed, scannability, actionability, or fit with your real constraints. Once the lens is named, the second pass becomes sharper. Instead of vaguely feeling that something is off, you can point to the exact problem and correct it quickly. I would also save more than prompts. Save output shapes, save the exact format that made the result easy to use. Maybe that is a one-page weekly plan, a short action board, a review template, or a decision table. The prompt matters, but the output shape matters just as much because it reduces cleanup next time. A lot of people save words and forget structure, then they wonder why the next session still feels like work. Structure is what makes repetition easier. The last thing I would watch is whether the system makes you calmer or just busier. That sounds soft, but it is actually a brutal test. Good I use should reduce friction, reduce rework, and reduce ambiguity. It should not create extra tabs, extra versions, extra maintenance, and extra thinking you now have to manage. When weekly planning is working, you feel more decisive because the next move is clearer. That is how you know the workflow is doing its job. It is not just producing text, it is producing momentum. If I were tightening this further, I would create a tiny checklist for the moments when the output misses. Was the context too weak? Was the ask too broad? Was the output format missing? Did I skip the second pass? Did I save the wrong thing last time? That kind of diagnosis matters because bad results often come from sloppy setup, not from some mysterious failure of AI itself. Once you can diagnose the miss, the workflow improves fast because you stop treating every weak result like a full restart. That is really the bigger theme under all of this. You do not need a perfect relationship with AI. You need a workable one. Something that can take a week full of meetings, errands, deadlines, and loose tasks, competing for the same space and move it toward a realistic week map with protected blocks, admin zones, and honest buffers without turning the process into another source of chaos. When a workflow starts doing that consistently, confidence goes up because you are no longer gambling every session. You know roughly what the system is for, how to steer it, and how to clean the output into something that fits your real work. So the first step is a weekly dump. Every meeting, errand, deliverable, idea, follow-up, and maybe task goes into one rough list. Then I give AI 3 instructions: separate fixed commitments from movable work, estimate rough effort for the movable work, and flag anything that should not live in the same day. That one move is powerful because it surfaces hidden overload. You stop lying to yourself about how much can fit between two meetings. After that, I build the week in layers. Layer 1 is non-negotiables, like meetings, deadlines, workouts, school pickups, or whatever actually anchors your life. Layer 2 is deep work blocks for the few things that move the needle. Layer 3 is admin and cleanup. The mistake is reversing that order. If admin fills the calendar first, important work gets squeezed into leftovers. AI is useful here because it can suggest better sequencing once it sees what is fixed and what is flexible. Here's a practical example. Let's say Monday is meeting heavy, Tuesday has one big deadline, Wednesday is open, Thursday is reactive, and Friday always gets weird. I can help turn that into a sane rhythm. Light planning and prep on Monday, protected execution Tuesday morning, major creation work Wednesday, follow-ups and loose ends Thursday, review and reset Friday. That is not revolutionary. It is just finally honest. And honesty is what makes the plan usable. Two mistakes wreck this fast. First, people ask AI to fill every blank space. Empty space is not waste. Empty space is where the plan survives interruptions. Second, people make every task look equal. It is not equal. Some tasks need sharp attention. Some tasks can be done half-tired. If you match the wrong task to the wrong time of day, the plan looks fine on paper and still fails in practice. What makes this weirdly good is not that I knows your week better than you do. It is that it can process the mess faster than you can when you're already overloaded. It helps you see collisions, trim excess, and build a week you can actually live inside. That is the win. Not a prettier calendar, a calmer one. Once you start using AI to plan the real week instead of the imaginary one, the whole thing stops feeling like self improvement theater and starts feeling like leverage.